Welcome back to another edition of the B4evaKool podcast. My name is Rex45, and this evening we got Jimbo on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Rexy. Thanks for having me on the show. How you doing?
I'm fighting a good fight. I could always, I think everybody could always complain, but then we always realize where we are and what we're doing, and sometimes we shouldn't complain as much. But
practicing gratitude, yeah.
Exactly. I'm being grateful for everything. But sometimes people get me so mad.
Oh, I hear you. No, I know. I got my fair share of that too.
So yeah, man. Welcome to the show, man. And let's talk about it. 2 wheels, 1 compass. What's that about? How did you get into riding? And when did you start riding and stuff like that? And let's how that happened.
Yeah, I can start from the very beginning. Is while back, I think during college, I had the opportunity to study abroad in Costa Rica. And
Okay.
when I lived there, I learned Spanish. I backpacked around Central America, and then I came home. And I had the itch for travel. I knew I wanted to travel the world, but I didn't know how. And I was at work once, and I was definitely not working. I was on Google Maps, I think I remember, I was looking exactly how far north Google Street View went. And
Okay.
I saw that it went as far north. There was like this one blue line that went all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. This would have been around 2014.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, like you can drive up there. And I was like, what's the farthest south you can go? And then so it went all the way to a town called Ushuaia at the very bottom of Argentina. And that's where like cruise ships leave to go to Antarctica. And so that's like the farthest south you can go. So I was like, all right, what if I'd been watching a couple YouTubers that did van life and other things, and I said, what if I there's backpacking, there's van life, overlanding, but a coworker suggested, what if you did it by motorcycle? And my dad was a motorcyclist.
Okay.
He quit. Yeah, he quit around the time I was born. There's this old, I think it was an '83. Sorry.
That's it. I'm hearing you. He was saying he quit.
Oh, yeah. He had an '83 Yamaha Midnight Maxim in the garage collecting dust full time my entire life, and so he'd been off 2 wheels for a while. But I was like, what if I did use a motorcycle? It's the access. It's cheaper with gasoline. And that old Ted Simon quote from Jupiter's Travels, the first Moto Magellan to go around the world guy, he said, being on a motorcycle being in a car is like watching a movie, and being on a motorcycle is like being in the movie. You
Okay.
get all the elements, the rain, the shine, the smells, whether it's the roadkill or the bakeries, you get
Right.
everything. So I decided, okay, I think I'm going to get a motorcycle and do this. This is how I will travel the world. And at that point, I had no motorcycle. I had no riding experience. I had
Okay.
no basic rider course. I was as green as you could get. And I put together this super elaborate plan. Is just a bunch of check boxes. Okay, get the written test, get the basic rider course. Then after the winter, get a bike. And then I also thought, what if I created and documented my journeys as a way to maybe have people follow along. They can be
Right.
educated about the places that I go. That's one hook that I saw that not a lot of other travel bloggers do, is they like to show their problems and, oh, look at this hike and all that, but they would kind of skip over, like, what is this amazing building, or what happened in this place. So I decided the hook or the angle would be kind of talking about the history and culture of places that I go. And
Right.
yeah, so I started a YouTube. I think the official 2 Wheels, 1 Compass began some point 2014 or 2015, and I I figured it was like retirement. It's not an age; it's a financial state. I wanted to have so much money saved up, and trust me, this is not a recipe or a prescription. There's many ways to travel like I am,
Right.
but in my way, I was like, okay, I want to have this amount. I'm going to get this bike, and um, when I hit this amount, then I'm going to align everything in my life, from selling my car, not renewing my lease on my apartment, not having a wife, kids, house, or major, unless someone will go with me. Um, yeah, there was I had kept my eyes on the prize for 7 years, and by the time 2022 rolled around, July 5th. I call it Gym Dependence Day. That was the day that
I
I
like
left
that.
home
Okay.
and I went all the way to the top of Alaska, then all the way to the bottom of South America and Ushuaia. I went to
Okay.
Antarctica. And at the current moment, you're seeing me almost 3 years into this journey, heading north in Chile to stop for a little while. At a certain point, I'm going to wait until I can escape the winter winds as they start to blow in the southern hemisphere here,
Right.
and
Right.
find a place to hang out for a while.
So it took you 7 years to start your journey, but you got this idea in college. Like, was there a moment that you just, I mean, other than looking at, Google Map or Google Earth and just kind of seeing what's
Yeah.
going on, was there a challenge? Did somebody say something to kind of say, hey, I might want to just kind of just see some continents or one continent?
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of it. Yeah, it was the exposure. You see in a lot of movies and media the people that do these kinds of things, and you assume that they're loaded or that it's a something that very privileged people can do. But then I would be, when I was on my Central American backpacking journey, when I lived in Central America, I'd find Bosnians and Mongolians and people from far-flung corners of the earth that were doing a lot more with less. And there was ways that they either made money on the road or they would network to find like odd jobs like painting, painting or building or
right,
things to
right,
kind of help get room and board as they went. And when you find and you see the people with your own eyes, and okay, this isn't some pipe dream, this isn't some pie in the sky thing. People really do this. That was a huge motivator for me because a lot of people think of it as, oh, travel the world. Everyone says they want to do that, but I was
right.
seeing people actually executing that dream. So that was a huge motivator.
Okay. And then so then why did it take 7 years to start your journey? And how long were you like backpacking? And you said it was in college, so like how long were you in Costa Rica for, all the countries down in South America?
Yeah, I was in Costa Rica for inconsecutively about 2 years. So I was there for a full year, and then I'd come back for maybe a month visit or a month or two visit here and there. I was teaching English for a little while. I was, doing odd jobs as well because I really liked the Latin American life,
Mm-hmm.
being outside of the States, the stimulation of speaking another language and being out of your comfort zone was very maturing. It's a challenge, and there's been serious times where I'm like, what am I doing? I don't like this. Like, get me out of here. Like, there was some real culture shock and low
Right, right.
moments.
Okay,
It wasn't
and
all,
so
yeah.
where, what state did you grow up in, and city did you grow up in
Oh,
before
yeah.
you?
I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay,
That's where the journey, that's where the
yeah.
journey started. I left there on Jim Dependence Day. So that was like where this journey also began.
Okay, okay. I suspect though that it was cool because you were able to travel and live in Costa Rica and around there for at least a year. So you weren't like brand new venturing out on your own. But now, so let's get into why did it take so long, the
Yeah.
7 year? Because I assume if you were my child, I'll be sitting here saying, go get a job, get your life together, go do all these
Yes.
things. I might not. I might say go chase your dreams, but I think that the typical thing is to say that, right? Is to
Yeah, that's kind of a two-parter. Like, how did I keep this moving,
right.
and how to navigate the kind of, there's a lot of indirect pressure or stress that kind of comes from everyday life. We see other people happy in stable jobs or the American dream or the routine.
Right.
And I'll tell you, even living this life, as tumultuous and wild as it is, I do miss routine. I miss not having to change where I'm living every month or running out time on a clock and a visa. I miss that too. Or not having to learn a new grocery store every time I change cities. Like, I don't know where stuff is. I'm
That's
backtracking.
That is a huge deal, though. Learning grocery stores is a huge deal because for me,
Yeah.
it's like I'm a creature of habit, and if I go to one brand and I go to a different location and it's not set up the same way, it drives me mad.
Oh yeah, that's why Costco kills me because they do it on purpose, and I know they do it. Like, I can't just go in and out and grab something. There's like,
Yeah.
okay, where's the pub mix? Where'd they throw the pickles? I know, and so you'll see me like it's with that instability and tumultuousness, you get the mental flexibility. But
Yeah. So you
yeah,
went to
so
school.
like
So after school, you
yeah,
were, you're planning this thing out, and I'm sure you're telling friends and family, and you're working. So yeah, as you're
yeah.
saying, there's a two-parter. So how did you keep your motivation, like you said, and also, try to assimilate, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, yeah. And telling people was a big part of it because I would repeat it and hold myself to it by the social pressure I was indirectly giving myself through others. I'd tell my parents, look, like I'm real serious with you. One day I want to travel the world on a motorcycle. I think I'll go from the top of Alaska to the bottom of Tierra del Fuego. And they're like, at first, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, well, we'll see what happens. Like that's it's like saying I'm going to be the governor one day
Right.
or I'm going to
Right.
be a
Right.
CEO. It's like, yes, that's a lofty goal. And there's obviously with many of those long-term strategies, long-term goals, you got to have a lot of little benchmarks in between, which is what I
Yeah.
would do. I would
Yeah.
create the YouTube channel. When I'd have vacation time, I would use all of it. After I got a motorcycle, I would use those like 3 weeks or 2 weeks that I had on vacation, and I would go on long distance moto camping trips. So I went from Minneapolis to the Pacific and back. I did another one around the Great Lakes, going over Lake Superior over to Niagara Falls, back through Chicago. I would tinker with the gear, and then the pandemic hit. So I had I could, there was no movement, but I was able to save a lot more, and then I focused more on the channel and growing a following. Created a Patreon, started writing as well because I figured might start a ride report or a blog. Now there's things out there like Substack that I'm thinking of getting into. So there's a lot of options, but yeah, so like those things, those little boxes that I put on my list would be the motivators to kind of keep myself moving forward. In addition to that, there was also the social pressure as well of
Right.
that like I'm going to drop everything, I'm going to leave everything behind. Any kind of relationships, whether romantic or with friends,
Right.
even professional, all of those relationships will come to an end personally, and I will leave this job or yeah. So like I tried to put a disclaimer on everything because I was keeping myself to it, and
Right. Right. Right.
eventually, at a certain point, if you keep doing that enough, if you end up just not going, what was all that for? And
Right.
so
Right.
it kept myself in check to keep it going.
Right, and even sometimes you because I had it not the same for me, but I was telling people I was relocating forever, and I think after a while you start to wonder, am I a fraud? Am I it's not happening yet? So it's like, am I telling people too much that I'm doing this
Yeah,
thing and I haven't gotten there yet? So for you, when you got your bike, and I'll be curious what year, because it sounds like you had this idea in 2014 and you got
yeah,
your bike at some point. Did people start taking you a little bit more serious when you got your bike?
yeah, yeah. So I got a 2009 Kawasaki Vulcan,
Mm-hmm.
and I got all the gear to load it up and then run and do these moto camping trips in local state parks. And did an off-road course. I did a first aid course. I started doing like courses and trials and gear testing, like stress testing gear. And a lot of this stuff I would do on my own. I don't have motorcyclist friends in this life. In Minnesota. That's why a lot of this stuff, like I look back, I'm like, oh man, I do so much of this different. I wish I knew more people
Right.
that were, but yeah, I didn't have a lot of outdoorsy friends either. There were not a lot of people that
Well, are
wanted to
you an
go camping.
outdoorsy person? I mean, now you are, but were you when you
Yeah,
started?
it's a good question. Yeah, I'd like the most that I'd camped was like in my yard as a kid when my parents bought a little Coleman tent. At a
Yeah.
certain point in university, though, I did get into archaeology. I was an archaeologist doing excavations and digs, and we'd camp. And I was like, I like this. I like waking up with the sun, and I started seeing the benefits, of being outside. I still do. I still love it. The ruggedness of being out there, and that also was a test to see if, like, look, there's a lot of uncomfortable things with being outside. You're in the elements. It was just raining on me like crap for 3 days just a couple days ago. I mean, it's not. Yes, it's as rugged or uncomfy as it
Right.
sounds sometimes.
The sooner you embrace it, the better it is.
Yeah, and I'll say too that even though you may have never done a lot of these things in your life, for anyone watching or anyone who may think of doing this one day, you'd be surprised exactly how flexible you can be when you have to be.
Yeah.
There's been some really uncomfortable situations that I've been in where there's political unrest or blockades, illnesses, natural disasters,
Wow.
things that I've had to navigate going through these nations. And when you literally have no choice, but here's your three doors, pick one.
Right. Right.
All of them may not sound good, but when you do it and you look back, you're like, "Dang, I just did that!" And you're doing that almost every day.
Right. Right.
Finding a new place to sleep or anything. So you build up a resilience, normalize it, and you look back or you tell people the stories of what you've done, and they're like, "Oh crap, you did that!" And so you're right. There is some imposter syndrome. You do feel like, "Hey, am I even?" Worth doing this at every step of the way. But as long as you kept your eyes on the prize,
Right.
and kept with in my case, the lists that I made, yeah, that was a huge motivator.
Right. So okay. So you bought your first bike. So now your parents are looking at you like, Dad's like, I think he might actually do this.
Yeah.
And so you're working and you're grinding and doing all, and you're going away, and they're seeing and you're doing all these things. When did you how did you pick the day you were going, and were you how how was that for you, and what was your plan as far as we had Nomad on, and he said he did more planning than he probably needed to, because there was things in the
Yeah.
list that he didn't even look at, because just once you're out on the streets, things just kind of happen through osmosis, or just being around and good energy and stuff like that. So 2 months before it's time for you to leave, what's going on?
Yeah, I with my parents buying the second bike, which is my current one. I have a Honda Africa Twin 1100. It's from the year 2020. When I bought that, it got really real for everybody because I traded in the Vulcan. I was getting an
Yeah.
adventure bike, and most of the folks that had been paying attention and following were also from my dad's social circles. Were also adventure rider
Oh,
types
cool.
and
That's what's up.
long distance cruiser guys, and they're like, okay, this
They're
this
like,
is
yeah.
starting. They're telling my dad, they're like, hey man, I think he's gonna do this, and then it was more real for me. And you asked like what day I would leave. I started lining up. Okay, the window to go to the Arctic, June to August, like that's
Right.
the time. And then so then you got hurricane season down in Mexico. How many months of health insurance can you get in the United States? Because it's a different game in the U.S. than it is everywhere else.
Right.
And so I'm lining up the logistics of like, okay, here's like the timetable. Here's because you can't just stay in any place indefinitely unless you're going to be there illegally. You
Right.
can't just or like me, I'm heading north. The snow is going to come in eventually. Like there's visas and seasons are kind of my guardrails, but there's some other elements as well. So when I lined up everything the best I could, it's like, all right, so I got in my last apartment right around 2020, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be in this apartment for 20 months. And so I asked the woman, it's like, hey, could I do a weird lease amount? And she's like, okay. It's like 20 months. And she's like, not 2 years, you want 20 months? And I was like, yeah, because that's July 2022. And then I'll be, at any point in that
Yeah.
window, I'll be up in the Arctic. And she goes, okay. And so when I made that lease, it started feeling more real. And then she said, okay, here's the time to renew. And I said, no.
No.
And it felt a little more real. And then I started loading up the bike. I was looking for buyers of my car. I had bought a little 5x5 storage locker to throw in anything in case, let's say, things go south, my life
Right. Right.
out there
Right.
doesn't work out.
Right.
I have like a starter kit for my life, like silverware plates, like a something. So, I still have and some just personal items, stuff I'd hang on my walls or whatnot are all in the storage locker. So
Right.
I threw all that. I put out a lease on that and started looking up insurance for travel insurance and health insurance in the States that's temporary and all these other things. So every step of the way, I was like, this is closing up and this is beginning. So that transitional period really, it just started to feel pretty real
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it
And
was,
so, what was we'll get into your where you've been, but I'm just curious.
yeah.
you're going to tell your job that you're leaving, and mom and dad is now like that. I guess they have a care package for you because they know you're serious, right? So there's something that they're like, okay, so before you get on the road, like what's the last few weeks like for you?
Yeah, I put in my notice for 3 weeks. I was real generous. I was like, look, I'm telling you right now, and they honestly asked. So my boss went, okay, I got to ask, like, where are you headed? Are you going to a competitor or whatever? And I said, I am leaving my life behind, and I'm traveling the world by motorcycle for at least 2 years, is what I was telling people.
Yeah.
And there was a pause on the line for a good 3 seconds, just nothing. And she went, I'm not gonna lie, that's like the best reason anyone's ever quit a job I've ever heard.
Of course,
And
yeah.
they were generous enough to give me a little 30-minute spiel on like, hey, this is what Two Wheels, One Compass is. This is what I'm planning on doing. I did a little map. I was able to kind of showcase it to my coworkers before I
Nice. Yeah,
left,
that's
which
dope.
they did not have to do that. And yeah, so then that was happening. And then July 5th was the day I left. So July 4th would be a great opportunity to see a lot of family because they all had their July 4th tradition of going to this house for the barbecue and everything. So I went out to that, said my goodbyes. Like, so they'd heard this plan for quite a while, and some of them I have a big family on my mom's side, so some were quite skeptical. Some had like been pretending they are only hearing it for the first time. They're like, "Oh, okay, so So I just told them the spiel, like, "Look, I'm leaving. I even came here on the bike. You could check it out if you want. This is going to be my house for a while."
Yeah.
And then they were saying goodbye to friends. I had a going away party. Again, another opportunity to soapbox and say, follow me on Two Wheels, One Compass and all these things. So it was like kind of a goodbye tour. And then it's when you kind of have this idea what it's going to be like. I had it in my head for years. I just very illogically thought there was going to be streamers and people clapping in a starting line and all this stuff, like this, like, oh, this is the biggest moment of my life. But it was really like, here are the keys. And the apartment's like, thanks, there's the door. And I closed it.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there with a bike in front of me and my hands at my hips, like, oh, whoa, that was it. This is real now. So
was there any second thoughts at that point, or days before, weeks before?
No.
You knew from 7 years ago that, like, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. And there was, of course, jitters. There was fear. There was uncertainty. Stomach was butterflies. Probably my teeth grinding at night, just like, oh, what could happen? This is going against everything that everyone around me does. It's a welcome bit of heresy to some people to see me do this, but I'm the one doing it. So there's got to be, am I doing something wrong, and what could happen? But there was, I'd listened to some podcasts myself, and a lot of folks that had lived lives like this, and they would say things like, the day that I'm not scared is the day that that I'm going to be in the ground. So it's you should be. That's feeling alive. Like that's the real stuff. So it's a good feeling.
There's something in that, and I can only explain it this way for me, because I race motorcycles, ride as well, but I bought a Multistrada trying to do some touring stuff. I haven't gotten there yet. I got big saddlebags though, and apparently I need soft ones, not hard ones, so that's a problem too. But
I got hard ones. That fight will go on forever.
Yeah, but it took me a little bit going to the track to realize what these people were feeling, and it wasn't so much feeling, it was they just in the moment and they're alive, and and you realize all these things that can go wrong. So it's a different way you carry yourself when you're just present. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it sounds like, for you, that's what it is. It's like you're just present all the time, which doesn't mean you're not scared, doesn't mean you're not aware, doesn't mean you're not worrying or anything. You're just always in the moment. You're not daydreaming about the past or the future. You're just present.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of things too that you're not going to be prepared for. I, for example, am not was not a very mechanically inclined person. I looked online and I looked for night classes. I looked for anything, and all I could find were just YouTube videos. So I
Yeah.
started watching basic how to change a tire things, what kind of tools I would need. I mean, so I figured like a video game, you got all your points of strength or speed or whatever. You also have like mechanical know-how, navigational know-how, grit,
Right.
just dealing with being uncomfortable.
Medic.
Luckily, yeah, I got a lot of points in language. Like that's a huge advantage to me compared to
Yeah.
many others.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some things that you will not be completely prepared for everything.
Right. Right. Right.
Curveballs are going to happen, but when they do, those bad times are really good stories too. So it's
Okay.
it
Yeah.
is, you get that feeling of being on a tightrope walk. Like, all right, I'm doing the best I can, but there could be a misstep or someone's going to toss something at me and I could fall. And I'm the other end of this tightrope is a city
Right.
or a dirt road or
Right.
some
Right.
other place to rest where you're catching me right now before I go
Yeah.
on my next tightrope walk.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
so was this something you thought about before you got on the road, or when you got on the road, these were things that you were finding about?
Both. Like I had a lot of speculation that there was going to be, stuff that would happen that would be uncomfortable. And then, well, and I guess three things. Yeah. And then when I did these stress test trips, I'd go out for those 3 week journeys. Then there would be things that would happen, like a flat, and I was like, I was worried this wasn't going to happen. It's inevitable. You'll eventually get one. But then there's things I did not account for. For example, I'm from a very flat place. I am from there are no mountains, so you can watch your dog run away in Minnesota. And when I'm in Montana, and
Yeah.
I'm at this ghost town, and I see another ghost town as a flatlander, I'm looking at the map, seeing me do this huge loop around a mountain chain. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Why would I do all that? I'll just cut through right there. And it ends up being this Bureau of Land Management land. I'm lost. I don't know where I am. And it's like a survival situation I just put myself into. I made such a huge mistake based off of naivete and
Yeah. Yeah.
ignorance.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I doing? So like there's some things that I guess I am already a risk taker living this life, but curiosity and sometimes just not knowing, you can't buy this kind of battery in this temperature, or you can't, like there will be things that you could do everything right that you can't know what you don't know. So
Right.
yeah, those kinds of things will happen too.
Gotcha. And so when you left Minnesota, you went north first? Is
Yeah. So I left Minnesota. I went through South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, crossed into Calgary in
Mhm.
Canada or Alberta, went up to Calgary, Edmonton, and then took the Alaska Highway all the way to Whitehorse. Went up I think it's the Yukon Highway that goes up to Dawson City,
Mhm.
and then took the top of the World Highway to Tok, then up to Fairbanks, and then all the way up the Dalton Highway to Dead Horse. And so
Wow.
that first leg going straight north took about a month, and I was running against time. And side note, I had to fly back to Minneapolis twice for 2 weddings.
Oh
These
wow.
guys, my best friends, one of them I was a best man, and the other was a groomsman. So I get up to Edmonton, fly down back,
Yeah.
go to the Arctic Ocean, come down to Whitehorse, fly down back. And then I was kind of uninhibited and then could continue. So there was a lot of logistics and
Yeah.
flights and
Yeah.
things to deal with in that first leg. But yeah,
Okay.
that was the beginning.
Wow. And like talk about that a little bit more, because you're it's no longer 3 weeks and going back home. You're now, this is like, okay, I mean, I don't know if it's a reprieve flying back for the weddings and going back versus just completely being there. But like, when, at some point it's like, this is real. I'm in it. There are things I don't know,
Yeah.
but you also made it to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I think after for me, hitting a milestone like hitting the Arctic Ocean is like, I did that. And,
Yeah.
I could look back and say I hit that milestone. But
Yeah.
every now and again, even now, sometimes the voice definitely goes away. But there were times that I'm like, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am
Oh
I
yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
What the hell am I? There's that voice in your head that wants the stability and the routine and your relationships and the life that you have. It's a very human thing. It's what most of us have most of our
Right.
lives. If we're lucky, not everyone
Right.
does.
And you've been doing this
And
for most of your life up until that point.
yeah, like that's all I really knew is you get a lease and then you get a house or you get a job, you to your time. There was a certain point where I don't know when I was like a teenager and I was like, man, so then I just go to work and then I take, 2-week vacations and that's life until retirement. My parents were like, "Yep, that's it. Get used to it. That is life." And I went, "Nah, there's got to be something more." Like, and then after being in Costa Rica, seeing how people live there, it's not all work oriented. It could
Right.
be quite the opposite, very family oriented.
Right.
Seeing other ways of life, and then also learning, okay, there are the other people that chose to travel, things like that. So um, being exposed to those things, and you knew there was something different. There's something else. And I have a lot of people that would say to themselves, and probably thinking right now, if they're watching this, like I could do something like that, but I got to think about retirement, or I got long-term goals that are financially, this could really
Yeah.
throw a wrench in. But a really vindicating thing for me is when I was in all these national parks, you typically get those real big tour buses full of old folks. And they're all retirees and they kind of hobble off and kind of meander like a good 10 yards from the
Oh
door
yeah.
and they don't go
Yeah.
too far. But I'd run into them in some of the trails and everything, and they'd say, "So, what are you doing?" And they'd strike up conversation, and I'd tell them, "Well, I've been traveling for a couple months. This was in the beginning, and I'm here to see Yosemite or Death Valley or whatever." And they would say, "You're lucky you're doing this when you're young." And it was like, yes,
Yes.
that's it. There's all
These are
these
the.
people that aren't that old. They're telling me, "Oh, you gotta be comfy when you're old."
Yeah.
And the old
Yeah.
folks are like, "Do it now. Don't wait." So
Right. You know,
that was a
I have to say that that's one of the hardest things to do. To Well, not to say do, but because it was similar for me in the sense that, like, I was probably working at the time, so I wasn't still in school, and but I was seeing older people doing what I was doing 28 years later, and I
yeah.
just saw how they were, and I was just like, oh man,
Yeah.
I don't. That doesn't sound fun. And so for me, I just started, doing things that I'm passionate with, that I wanted to do, and try to kind of just chase dreams and stuff like that. And
Here we are.
yeah, exactly. And here
Yeah.
we are, because there's a lot of people, and I talked myself out of it for a while too myself. So I don't want to. I've been those folks because I was probably like 27 before I was just like, okay, let me do this. And I didn't start riding a motorcycle because I was in my 40s, because I was like, it's either now or never, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of thing, right? So I get that side of that too, because you can easily talk yourself out of stuff, and it's reassuring that older folks do see what we're doing, and they kind of tap us on the back or give us a that a boy, saying, yeah, go ahead and do it, because what else is there? So
Yeah.
how do your friends, after a few years now, how they are they starting to kind of get more a little free with life, or they still kind of like job, work, family structure?
Yeah, before I got one good piece of wisdom on your last comment though, is about like, you hit a certain age and you realize like, okay, this can't just be it. Like I myself, and maybe you did as well, took the path of least resistance in life, and it took me to places I didn't want to be. And I feel like that's where you look at those people that may be unaffectionately called lifers. Like, I'm working
Right.
at this place, and you see a guy that's been there, so many years, and we get in our bubbles and we put our heads down, we do our puzzles, and we go away, and just years pass. And
Yeah.
so there was this quote from my favorite writer. His name is Hunter S. Thompson, but he had a quote in one of his letters that he wrote to a friend when he was like a teen, but he saved everything. His friend was asking him, "Dude, you work like as a freelance writer, you're sleeping on people's couches, you're always broke, but you're doing it. Like, how do you do it?" He was working at a cushy job at Time Magazine, and he was, doing his 9 to 5. So he's like, how do you live on the road like this?
Yeah.
And it's a little wordy, but it's something that I'll never forget. He said, "You don't have to do what you don't want to do for the rest of your life. But if that's what you end up doing, convince yourself you had to. You'll
Yeah.
have a lot of company." And it was this tongue-in-cheek way of kind of, slapping some sense into him, like, "Dude, you're going to be like everybody else. Just
Yeah.
tell yourself, oh, I have to be at this job. I have to do this," because most people do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you kind of go
Yeah.
with the flow, and then the years pass. So yeah, on that last, I wanted to make sure I got that out before I forgot it, because it was a huge motivator for me living this extremely unconventional lifestyle that a lot of people may dream about.
Right, right.
But your last question, you said, was it about my friends watching
Yeah,
this?
like how how are they are they becoming more like you after
Oh,
you've been doing this for a while?
man, nah. Like I think my closest circle of friends around the time I started this, I had like $40,000 of student loan debt. I had to get myself out of debt,
Right.
throwing money at it to lower the interest payments and get it done as soon as I could for this long term goal. These guys are, they got wives. Many of them have kids. They got houses. They're starting families, and that's a very Midwestern thing. I know
Yeah.
Minnesota is a very sedentary culture. We don't travel much. We like our routine and staying in our winters in the blizzard, get put on pizza, eat ice cream. I get it. I've lived it. Most of the people I know are like that. I don't see a lot of Minnesotans out here, but I think when they see it, I don't think that it has made them want to do it, but they say things like they're living vicariously through me. They
Mm,
think that it's fascinating. They know that it's risky, and I don't think they could see themselves doing it at least at this point in their lives. But and there's also a couple people that are very inspired and have thought, oh, what if I got that job in another country, or what
right.
if I decided to do a backpacking trip by myself, solo travel once in my life before deciding to settle down. Anyone can travel in any way or go out of their comfort zone like I
Right,
have,
right.
and they don't have to hop on a bike and travel the world for years. But
Yeah.
if they see that there's like, okay, there's some growth, there's put yourself out there, there's some great dividends. You mature a lot, you have some great stories, you learn about self-confidence. There's very few low sides to it other than a few dead scratches and scars. It can be
Yeah.
quite good.
Yeah, and I don't want to stay on this too much, but you mentioned, some people look at things as risky, and I hear that as well because tell people you ride a motorcycle, they think it's so risky, but like life is risky. Every moment of
Yeah.
every day for everyone is just as risky. It just so happens that nothing happens most of the time.
Yeah, one of my podcasts that I like is called Adventure Rider Radio. It's the Adventure Rider. These guys used to go through the stands in the '80s and through Africa and and before internet. These some of the
Yeah.
higher. Yeah, and one of these guys said there was a man sleeping in bed in Florida when a sinkhole opened up under his house. Like you could die in your bed tonight, and
Yeah.
you did everything right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, the risk is. And another really big thing about this too is that I've learned as a hallmark of this is we overestimate unknown risks and we underestimate known ones. We could
Yeah.
be terrified of I don't know what, maybe a hurricane hitting us that if we've never experienced one before. But some people are like, nah, I've
Yeah.
had one before. I just
Yeah.
board up the windows and throw on some, get some candles. So there's many things, examples I could give of that. But the things we don't know, like a lot of the people that remind me how dangerous Mexico is, have never been there outside of a resort.
Right, right.
Where I'll be in. Just throwing a random country example, I'll be in El Salvador and they'll say, oh, you came from Guatemala? Oh man, it's really scary there. And I'm in Guatemala saying I'm going to El Salvador. Like, you're going to El Salvador? Oh man, I would go
Right.
there. It's really scary there.
Yeah.
Everyone's got, it's the unknown, I feel like, and it's
Yeah.
hard to gauge. Whereas those dangers that we already know about, Europeans going, oh, there's all the school shootings in
Right,
the
right.
States. Aren't you
Yeah.
afraid of that? I'd be like, well, yeah, but it's something I've gauged, I guess, my whole life. So the unknown, I guess, from that example, yeah, those are things that can hold us back sometimes.
Yeah, it's the unknown. Yeah, I listen. If people don't get to travel, like I was born in Jamaica, lived there for my first 8 years of my life. Before I came to the States,
Oh,
and I heard stories about the States before I got there from people who told us stories. And I'm 6, 7, 8. Like I'm thinking I'm coming to America thinking like the streets are lined with gold and people are
uh,
living way better than all this stuff. And I don't know how that happens, where people get these notions or these ideas, and I don't know if I don't know. You must have seen, you whisper in somebody's ear in a room and tell a story. By the time it gets back to you, it's a whole different story, kind of thing,
oh yeah,
right? So I think there's a lot of they mean well, right? But it's
yeah.
just they're taking everything literally from someone else, and they could be just elaborating a little bit just to make the story a little bit better.
we're seeing, if we haven't been there, we're looking at it through a lens or hearsay. And a lot of people think of Mexico, for example, like the 2010 drug war when it was at its absolute worst, and then they hear nothing for years, and they think, oh, it must still be that. When I went to Nicaragua, my parents thought of the Contra War in the 80s, and
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"Oh my
yeah.
God, he's going to Nicaragua." Imagine if you knew someone studying abroad 10 years from now going to Syria. You'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's terrifying." All I've known of Syria the last 10 years has been civil war. But on the flip side, like you thinking the states are lined with gold, there's an actual syndrome. There's a page for this on Wikipedia called Paris syndrome. It's Japanese people going to Paris, France, and realizing it's not the romanticized view that they see in movies and literature.
Oh,
They see
yeah.
garbage on the streets, they see graffiti, and they break down. They like start crying. They can't
Yeah,
deal
yeah,
with it.
yeah.
They hit this emotional slump. They go home
Wow.
early.
Yeah.
It's like a real thing, and it can go in both ways because we're seeing a lot of the world through a lens. A driver of what I wanted to do with Two Wheels One Compass is to show that the people that I meet and that I've been rubbing shoulders with, sharing drinks with, going out to eat, that have invited me into their homes, everyone on this earth are all humans.
Right.
We wake up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we have jobs, dreams, families, mother-in-law jokes. We all have, like, we're a lot more alike than we are different. And like Mexico or Ecuador or someplace that you may have heard bad news from isn't like some hornet's nest waiting for a
Or
traveler to come in and get them.
right.
It's but if that's all you hear, you're going to get this. You're going to paint a picture, and
Okay.
it may be very different from the reality. And so
Right, right,
uh,
right. Okay.
that can drive a lot of that unknown fear. Yeah.
I completely agree. So you're all the way north. You got there in time. Sounds like you can leave before the snow comes in and stuff like that. Now, where's
Yeah.
your next travel? Is it just down the coast to Mexico at this point, or what's the plan after that? And it sounds like you've been on the road now for at least 3+ years. So you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Eventually, like I tried to stay ahead of the change in seasons. I got to the States as like right following where the leaves are starting to change color. So I
hmm
got farther and farther south to about LA around Halloween. So I've been
okay,
on the
yeah,
road from early July to November. But my biggest driver was a temporary health insurance. I can't just see all the states I want. I got to move into Mexico so I can get on traveler's insurance, which is much better and cheaper to have.
okay,
So that was that driver. So I went into Mexico and then I'm on a whole new timeline. I got 6 months. The seasons that I got to worry about, there's no snow. But if I want to see the Maya world, if I want to go to the Yucatan and see all the Maya ruins, I got to do it outside of hurricane season. So
gotcha, yeah,
I'm thinking of that. And so hurricane season isn't until, let's say, late in the year. So from about November when I entered Mexico to, I think it was about April, I was there 6 months. I got to see as much as I could and then moved into Central America. And then every one of those countries, they're very small, but they can be very different, different accents, food, ways of life. So I try to give many of them a fair shake. Like I spent I think like about almost a month in Belize, a couple weeks in Guatemala. I was in El Salvador for a full month, Nicaragua for a full month, and then Costa Rica was where I used to live when I was doing the study abroad. So there, I kind of chilled for a while.
okay.
There's this,
And
there's this, yeah.
no, I was gonna say, hey, you saying chill and these things. My chilling is staying in a hotel, getting a little pampered lifestyle. So when you say you're chilling, are you camping out, or you kind of looking for the best rate for a buck kind of thing at
Oh
these
yeah.
places? What's the living situations like once you figure out, hey, this is the town I want to be in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I didn't go into too much detail of like my time in Costa Rica, but I lived with the host family. And so I reached out, I kept in touch with the host family and we're very close. And one of the sisters of the family actually lives a couple hundred kilometers north of here, and I'll go stay with her. So like we've been very close. And so I stayed with my host family for almost the full 3 months.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I would help cook. I would also the motorcycle. I'd bring my host mom on the motorcycle to the
Nice.
market, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool. I was like, oh, the gringo's in town, and so like, and I'm getting my Spanish back.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm kind of reliving and looking at all the places that I used to be to, seeing old friends. So by chill, I guess a good way to describe it is I'm not planning anything, I'm not experiencing anything, and I'm not fixing anything. There's no
Gotcha.
admin work. I am
Yeah.
watching Netflix. I am like vegging out and doing, because I feel like there's three batteries I have. There's one when I eat, one when I sleep, but there's like this long-term battery that if I'm constantly in action, I'm planning something, experiencing something, or
Right.
admin, like fixing stuff, laundry, the bike maintenance, all sorts of stuff. That all it, on a long enough timeline, you're like, I just want to stop.
Right, right,
And that's
right.
also kind of what I'm planning myself in a couple weeks here. Too is
No, yeah,
when I get
yeah,
yeah.
because I was gonna say, like, you've been going as far as work and doing all these things. Now, one, yeah, you move on your own compass, you move on your own time, so therefore you don't have to answer to anyone but yourself. Um, was that easy to kind of like uncompress, to kind of shake off like I would go to like different islands, and I'm from an island, I forget about island time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like things open when they open, and so the
Yes.
first day you're like, what, who can I call, who can I complain with? But after a few days you either sit outside and commiserate with everyone else, or you just show up an hour later. So like, you as as a person, like, you're going through these changes, right, as we all do. So like, are you recognizing that, or are you in front of that, or you
Oh,
just kind of
oh yeah. I think it was when I was on this ship going to Antarctica. I'd saved up for this, and I'm not a conventional person you find on one of these ships, because a lot of these folks are retirees or artificial intelligence, uh, Silicon Valley, tech bros or whatever. Yeah, they,
right,
they
right,
seem
right.
to be a little higher of an income, and this place had elaborate 5-star meals, and this was a real like exclamation point at the end. But I was a caveman in these around these people. I was like eating with my hands. I forgot the whole napkin in my lap thing. I realized like I was like coming out of the Stone Age, trying to like, oh geez, this is not my scene. I
Right,
don't know
right.
who. There was a learning curve. The etiquette and everything I had to get
Yeah, my
up to
bad.
speed, because I did accustom myself to that island life. They call it
Yeah.
Tico time in Costa Rica. Things open when they open. If you arrive on time, you're there early. Um, Being okay with stuff being. There was one time I was in hostel, and somebody said, "Hey, do you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow?" And I went, nobody knows what the weather is. That was me. That was me like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when
Now
someone's
you're like,
asking me, I feel it's like, how naive they're going to know what the weather is.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
or I had somebody said, there's very few places you can drink the water out of the tap. Anywhere north of Chile and Argentina, there's a few cities, and they're typically in mountains. I was in Medellin, and you can drink the water out of the tap there. That's a revolutionary thing to me. After I've been spending years or months, with no toilet seats and buying things in all my water from water bottles.
Yeah.
And so this Austrian couple went, hmm, I don't like the taste. It's a little bland and bleachy for me. I'm like, dude, you don't have to go to a store to get this stuff. This is revolutionary stuff here. We could drink out of the sink. Like, I just, hearing them kind of gripe
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd realize how like I'd become a pretty hard guy now. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so yeah, you'd be surprised what you can get used to. But I started to really, when you get in a place long enough, you start to soak it up. And I know that I will never be a Chilean. I will always be a gringo in Chile. But
Yeah.
you do pick up on the words, the euphemisms, the shows, all sorts of stuff. So
Right, yeah, and the longer you're there, as you embrace the culture more, the culture embraces you more as well, right?
oh yeah, yeah, you find a way to fit in. Trust me. There's everyone will. Yeah, if especially I know coming from the States, we have a little bit of everything, but when you're, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy, in my case, speaking Spanish, it's very unexpected. And
Yeah.
there's a conduit. Like, I can talk about how the streets are not lined with gold in the U.S. or like, hey, Mexico isn't too bad. I don't know what
Right,
you've been
right,
seeing in your telenovelas, but they don't all fight like that.
right, right,
And
right,
so I found a way to kind of not act. I don't know what it would be called, like a rambling man on the road with
right,
all the
right.
stories. So I found a way to fit in that
Yeah.
context.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and correct me if I'm wrong. It's like finding a way, but it's also you. And I mentioned this a little earlier. Like you're also changing as a person yourself, right? So
Yeah.
so when you say find your way, you're also finding your way yourself, right? In this process so far.
Oh yeah. I like to think of it, and there's nothing wrong with the way saying find yourself, but I think the best way to describe it is create
Mm-hmm.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The idea of saying find means that it's there's an end point. But creating yourself makes it seem like a work in progress that's constantly evolving. And I've been taking elements of different cultures and individuals and experiences that have knocked me on my ass or shown me great things
Right.
all along the way. And I felt that it's definitely expanded my worldview. It's helped me become a more humbled and open-minded person. But I think it's also given me a lot more faith in humanity that you would not get from screens or seeing things through a lens. I believe that it's really shown me that the world is not all out to get us, and it is a better place than we really think it is. Um, Especially when you can see it in people's eyes and people's faces when they greet you at a corner store, or if random guys on bikes barely even speak your language, but they're coming up going, I'm just so curious. I see these stickers. What are you? What are you doing?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
smile and they smile. You may not even be able to communicate that well, but you bring out a map and maybe a whiteboard and you just say, hey, this is that, and here's what
Yeah.
I've done. And you found it really brings out the humanity in a journey like this. So I've learned to listen a lot more, I feel like. And there's a lot of things that I know I've been working on myself over the course of my life, and I will continue to. But I think that it's also strengthened my strengths and improved my faults. I think it's a very maturing experience, but it's not comfy. It's really uncomfortable. Some of these things. There's some times where it's just I am like learning to lose control, learning that you can't have everything planned, uh, self-deprecating humor, learning to
Yeah,
cope,
yeah.
getting along with knowing that I am not an
Yourself.
expert. Yeah, oh yeah. Like there's been time like there were times where I would forget something and like I'd leave something behind somewhere or something would break and I'd go, man, an experienced travel would never do this, and I would completely knock myself down. But it's like, well, then how do you think you become one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just want to shake my past self by the shoulders and just go like, this is good. But
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
in the moment, man, it is so frustrating when things break or when I make mistakes. I've been
Yeah.
one of those people where someone else makes one, I'm like, oh no, that's fine. But when I do, it's,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's very interesting. So now, it seems like you've been on the road for like about 3 years.
yeah.
And so far it sounds like it's North America, South America, Central America. Are you planning to go beyond that? Let's talk about some of the places you've been as well, because and like how do you pick? How do you know when it's time to leave? How do you?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I went through Canada, Alaska, west coast of the U.S. Then I was in 6 months in Mexico. Spent about I don't know how many months total, but like the rest of Central America. I had to fly the motorcycle from Panama to Colombia because the Darien Gap, for those that don't know, is a no man's land that Panama and Colombia are not connected by road. And
Yeah.
I went in length in my videos on like why that is and what it is. But then flying to Colombia, I was in continental South America, and I went through Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. Had a really rough time getting through Bolivia, but I did it. And some people get through just fine. That was just me. Paraguay, Argentina,
No,
Chile, all the way
why do you
down.
say rough time? I gotta ask, like, what makes it a rough time? If you
Oh
want to
man,
talk about it.
yeah, Bolivia is not for beginners. I've said it in my blogs and in my videos, but I really think it isn't. There was a period of time. My phone got stolen, which is rough. I do all my video editing on my phone, and I tried to do the geolocates, and they put it into a little Faraday cage. They're real smart about it, so I couldn't get the GPS signal out. And then when my phone was stolen, I had to get one back, make a police report, and get a new one. And both of those projects ended up being just nightmares
Yeah.
because let's try to get a new phone. Power goes out in Samsung, and they say, "Oh, sorry, the power's out only in Samsung, not anywhere else in the mall.
Wow.
We're gonna have to. Well, we'll sell you it for this amount in cash, and we'll write you a hand receipt." And it turned out the amount they were charging me was about $200 more,
Wow.
so they're going to scrape it off the top. So they're trying to cheat me. And then the cab drivers in between every single place, the police station, the cell phone carrier where I had to get to document that showed that I registered the phone in Bolivia. Every cab driver's trying to cheat me too. They all don't think I speak Spanish. There's little insults here and there, like this cabron here. He thinks he just, like, what is he wearing? Things like that. But then while I'm doing this, the entire city is covered in a Mad Max orange haze of smoke from wildfires coming off of the Amazon. So I'm at
Wow.
like 5,000 meters, which is, oh, geez, like, I don't know how many feet that is, but it's the highest capital in the world. The air is super thin and it's full of smoke. So I start getting sick. I get
Yeah.
bronchitis. I'm like fluid in my lungs, trying to get a police report, trying to get a cell phone plan. Then two massive protests descend down on the city from different causes. One of them is a United States, I think it is a United States labeled terrorist organization known as the Panchos Rojos that are trying to reinstate Evo Morales as president, armed and marching on the Capitol. On the other side is a farmer peasant revolt that's pissed off about gas prices and they're trying to block off borders. So while I'm sick, trying to get a cell phone, the cabs are treating me. The cabs are cheating me. The Samsung's cheating me. I'm trying to get a police report. The whole place is full of smoke. I can't breathe, and I got to get out of there before the whole place shuts down.
So
While this is happening,
yeah.
every gas station in Bolivia has a different rate for international people than they do for locals. So you get a different
Wow.
rate.
Yeah.
So when I get to the pump, there's three things that can happen. One, they do it all like they should. You're this price, we're this price, cool. And
Yeah.
it's really terrible gasoline. The second thing is they lean in and they go, "Do you want a receipt?" And you go, "No." And then so they'll give you like a little discounted amount, scrape it off the top, and put it in the computer as a local. So you're
Yeah.
saving a little, they take a little, and the government doesn't know. The
Yeah.
third one is the little scheme where they say, "Sorry, my gas pump, which is the only one for 4 hours in every direction, doesn't process international. So you're gonna have to go to my buddy's place over there, get a 5 liter can, and fill it up 5 liters at a time. And you have to buy it from him. I don't have one. And
Yeah.
then you got to do that whole dance. So
Wow.
this happens to everybody that's foreign in
Yeah.
Bolivia, whether they're Brazilian, German, or
Doesn't
American.
matter.
Yeah. So, and that's just a taste. Yeah, that was one of the rougher places that I'd been for a while. When I got out, I was in Paraguay, and I started seeing all these hallmarks of civilization that was closer to what I was used to, such as cheese, pickled foods, gigantic refrigerators full of deli meats. I'm like, what is this? Everything started coming back, and I'd realized that I'd been in a real hard place for a while. So yeah, that was after recovering from the illnesses and
Yeah. Yeah.
gas lines for miles. Hey, 8 hours a day to sit in line. That's your job in the family. You're waiting in line. That's your job today. Like it's yeah, it was and I'd put the word out. Like it's not a terrible place to visit. There's the salt
Right.
flats
Right.
and
Right. Right.
beautiful
Right.
cities. It's just when you do navigate, it's going to be a little harder with less
Right.
services and uncertainty. And
Yeah.
it's good to talk with people and be like, "What is this protest? Oh yeah, they happen all the time. They're probably going to block off the roads. You probably move." and
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
you're like,
now, was there a time, or has there been a time, regardless of that moment or any other moment up until this point, that you go, I could just put a for sale sign on this bike and buy a one-way ticket and go home. Has that happened? Crossed your mind? And if it has, how did you talk yourself out of it?
I'll be really, really honest with you. I have never thought about
Okay.
pulling the plug.
Yeah.
I have not. There's been times where I've like said, and this is a good thing too. If you see a road, for example, like I talked with this couple at a place that I could camp at, and I saw their road, and it was just pure sand. And I'm on a fully loaded Africa Twin. It's pretty heavy. My skills can't handle it. Many people I'm sure could, but I went, I can't, and I had to turn around. It's
Yeah.
okay. You don't
Yeah.
have to put yourself out there like that all the time. And at the beginning of this journey, I felt like, what, am I not cut out for this? Am I a failure? But now I'm more humble with the idea of being okay with
Yeah,
not
you got to look at the
doing that.
situation and kind of size it up and trust your instincts.
And my instincts went, that looks like hell. I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend. I'm lifting the bike up alone. I'd have to take off all the boxes. Nah, I'm not doing that. But I don't think there's been ever a time where I said I wanted to sell the bike. I've had minor injuries in accidents. I've had some equipment damage in some accidents for sure. But I bet if I had physical damage, like a broken leg or something, it would make things pretty tough logistically in terms of, okay, how long can I stay in this country? I got to be in the hospital this long, and they're permitting, I'd have to speak to some embassies. Never had to deal with that yet, but I've been in embassies where I think I've overheard those conversations, or this guy, he can't be here that long, etc.
And that I have to say, up until you said that, that's not something I thought of. Unfortunately, I haven't been in a situation where I guess I had to think, how long can I be in this country? But that's a very important thing to think about when you're doing a solo journey, like you're doing, right? Because it really you really have to kind of figure these things out, because regardless of visas or just getting hurt, like you say, and then it's just kind of like, okay, well, I only got a visa for 3 weeks, but now I need 2 months, and some places may not be as, I don't know what the word is,
generous.
Generous.
Yeah. Oh no, that's happened. A big part of this kind of travel is the bureaucracy. At every border, I got I think the big 7 things. I stamp out, bike stamps out. I stamp in, bike stamps in, change money, insurance, and cell phone.
Wow.
So I got to go through those big 7 at every border. I don't have to do cash or cell phone sometimes, and insurance. Sometimes they really don't care. It's fluid, but I like to have those down pat before I cross the border. And when you do, you got to check your documents, because sometimes a document will have. I had 60 days in Nicaragua. Bike had 30.
Oh shit!
Why? So I'm good, but if I leave that, it's like I'm carrying around a little baby with me everywhere.
Yeah.
I get a stamp and it gets a stamp. I go to immigration, it goes to customs, and if we're both over, there's a fine for me and a fine for the bike. So you got to know, and eventually it ends up becoming just a part of the job. It can be very intimidating if you've never done it before, but as long as you know. It's honestly, it's something you could put on a checklist. It's like, okay, talk to these guys, find these guys, ask them where it is, get this paper, check the date. And when people ask, okay, how long are you planning on staying in Argentina? And I'll say, I will be here the longest you will permit me. I would like the 90 days if that is the maximum. Some people say, 30 is enough, or 6. What if something happens? What if you get in an accident? What if something breaks and you got to wait for a part to arrive from another country, get that through customs and pay the duty fees? All that takes time. So I always ask for the maximums. And then after a while, it does kind of become a habit. You learn that, okay, this is the big, I'm crossing a border, a new window is beginning. When you get that 90 days, it's kind of a big exhale, like, all right, I'm good now. I got some time, but you're always running on a clock. For example, I was in Costa Rica. Bike is with the family that I lived with in Costa Rica. I flew home the only time to visit since, I guess, the weddings in Canada. And so when I flew back home, I'm out, immigration's good, but the clock is still ticking on the bike.
Right.
Those 90 days are still going. So when I get back, I got a fresh visa in 90 days, bike's almost done. It's got 15. I got to move. Yeah. And so you gotta take that into account too. So yeah, if I were to visit home again, most countries give 90. Argentina at the current time gives 240. And the most generous I think I've ever heard any country currently is Uruguay, giving a 1 year
visa
on a motorcycle. Yeah. I think they're trying to become the hub where people keep things and ship things in and out. And they're really winning against Argentina. In the past, Argentina was the one people go to, and Argentina's getting them beat. That's also how you ship to Africa and Europe too. People are going through Montevideo instead of Buenos Aires these days.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
So what is the plan next? Are you going to go to Europe, or are you just kind of going just staying in South America, Central and North, or what's the plan?
Yeah, it's a very good question that I'm currently parsing through at the moment, because my entire most of my adult life has been me going from top to bottom of the Americas. So I feel like I'm reached the top of a ladder and I'm grabbing for a new one. I don't really know what there is. I think it's right now I'm going to float. I have a lot of ideas, no plans. I'd like to write a book. I'd also like to stop for a little while. So I've been batting around the idea of actually being published and writing a book on maybe a how-to or a mixture of how-to and my experiences. If I did leave South America, I've really given a lot of thought to Africa. I feel like that if I went from like South America to Europe and then Africa, I'd get really soft in Europe. They got all the services, infrastructure, drinking water everywhere. But if I go for a pivot, if I pivot and move a little laterally, I could still be in a good, flexible mental headspace to kind of tackle Africa. I'm not 100% on any of it. Right now, I'm okay with floating a little bit. Honestly, I really like Chile. Out of all the places and all the countries I've been in, there's been a lot of great places to visit, but Chile so far has been the one that I could actually consider myself living in, other than maybe Canada. Ecuador was also up there as well. Chile seems to be the best for what I'm thinking now, but it could change. I could find another place. So yeah, I said to myself before I got to the bottom, I'd say, hey, am I going to be ready to be done? And I'll wait until I get there to ask myself. And at the current moment, I am not ready to be done. I am not thinking about going to the States, maybe to visit, but not pull the plug. I'm still thinking, what if? Because kind of like a rolling stone, or Newton's law of an object in motion stays in motion. When you stop, it's kind of hard to start.
Right.
Yeah, but when you're going, it's also hard to stop.
Right. So what are your parents thinking? What are your dad's friends thinking? Since you're a few years in now, what are the conversations like?
My folks are okay with me doing a big float. I've been as honest with them as I can be with them. We do like a good 2-week cadence check-in. It's always really nice to talk with them. They know that I'm not planning on coming back to the States. If I would, it would be for a visit. I know that it took a while for my mom to kind of accept everything that I'm doing. She would be like, look, this is nerve-wracking. It's killing me. I'm like pulling my hair out here. My dad, though, I mean, he has a tracker on his phone of where I'm at. He knows where I'm at. So he'll be at work and be like, hey, check where Jimbo is now. He's like, oh, looks like he just crossed into Ecuador. Interesting, So
you ever thought about inviting them?
Oh, I've invited them, but they're so sedentary creatures. I think the farthest they got out of their comfort zone geographically was Barbados for a honeymoon.
Okay, there you go.
My dad goes fishing in Canada. That's the most ambitious that they've been, but they're always welcome to. And my dad's not a big plane flying kind of guy, so we drove to Texas when I was a kid. That was something.
Okay. That's what's up.
But I know that it's been a long time, so I know that they're much more confident in my abilities now. But they also, when they hear the stories, they're happy to hear them long after they're done, rather than like
in the moment. Right.
Haven't got one of those yet. So
nice, and hopefully they won't, because it's I haven't. I get on a plane, I got to rent a car. That's my story, and I'm at hotels. So I mean, my struggles is I'm more American these days than Jamaican, as far as my travel, but like. You're a different person now, right? And as you're saying, you want to write about your experience and all these things, but it's easy to say, what would you tell yourself, when you first started, but kind of like, when you look at yourself in the mirror, like, because sometimes I look in the mirror, I'm like, all the things I've done out, like I'm a kid from country and when I say country in Jamaica, like, not city, not town. I'm out there in the sticks. Like, I would have never thought I would have done the thing, even growing up in Boston and, as a teenager and stuff like that, I would have, I thought I literally just get a job and work. Right. And that's that. I would, I wouldn't, the stuff I'm doing now and been doing for the last 20 plus years. I would have never thought. So, how do you look at yourself when you look in the mirror these days? You're like, yo, is this crazy or what?
Yeah, that's a huge. I think Rexy, that's what we're talking. The very beginning of this call is practicing gratitude, because I look at some of my accomplishments and things that I've done, and it's good to go back and go, okay, look, there's been some worse times and I've gotten through it. Holy crap, I just did all this. I lost weight, all sorts of things. Like, I look different, I talk different, my Spanish has improved. It's just been such a maturing experience, but you do normalize it. You do go like, oh yeah, it's always been this way. It hasn't. You didn't have that mic or all that great, cam equipment there. That came from an idea. That came from a time where you're like, all right, if I'm going to do this, how am I going to do it? And I guess some of the gratitude and validation comes from other travelers that look at the bike and go, look at those stickers. What are these scars? What is all this? And I'll go, oh, yeah, that's right. I did do that. So I mean, sometimes it's external, but you got to keep it with yourself too. I think that's a very big part of knowing that like the self-gratitude and okay, I did all this stuff. I could probably do something else. I do think I could do Africa, as much as it could be, a real grind and or challenge compared to, I'm not with many of the languages in many of these countries. The services are even fewer in many of these places, less politically stable. What if I did do it? But I think I would mature and grow even more, or have some really good stories about how I didn't make it. So
yeah. Nice, man. I could keep going. I mean, I guess I should. Like, I mean, so your riding skills. Let's talk about that. I mean, you've had a few years now of pretty much making your own path. How do you feel? And it's a big bike. The African Twin is definitely a big bike. To move around.
Yeah, a couple different points. One is because it's a casualty of me not knowing too many motorcycle people. When I got a bigger bike, this 1100, most people in my social circles, like my dad, would go, okay, you got the right bike. And when you're going across the vast expanses of the Arctic, makes sense. It's 1100. You got a lot big, long highways. It's, long distances. You take something like this through the teeny and antique, streets of Ecuador that are like this, built before the car. It's a nightmare. It is so hard to maneuver this massive bike in a place like that. So, like, if I could I'm locked into the setup. If I could do another one, I would have maybe done a Honda Tenere 700. But I talked with Quentin, our mutual acquaintance, and Quentin, he'd said like 700. Nah, I'd go even smaller. So I mean, you don't quite me for a trip like this. He's like, yeah, I'm picking it up, and I think that sucks. And I'm like, yeah, I'm picking this up, and it sucks. So I'm locked into this current setup, and I wouldn't do it the way that it is. But I feel like a lot of people say that. You sometimes see, for example, you see somebody with a big tire on the side of the bike, like an extra tire. Yeah. And to the untrained eye, that looks like someone very prepared. They're like, yeah, that guy's got an extra tire. All I'm thinking about is, how does he lock it on there? How does he balance it? He has to carry it upstairs into the place every time he stops somewhere. So when you're in the business, you start to
realize you don't need as much, and it's really you don't need as much as you think you do when you first start out, and it's interesting because there's no way to. For you guys, Quentin and yourself and the few before you guys, I say few, I'm pretty sure there's a few 100,000 or maybe even 10,000 people have done it, but it's still few compared to how many people are in the world. You don't, is there's not a one-stop place that you can go and say, hey, these are all the things I need to travel around the world so you can plan. Yeah. So it's kind of like you're kind of in it And then, like Quentin had mentioned, he's like, I'm bringing stuff back home that I don't need because I don't need these things. And I thought I needed these things. And so, it's really hard to prepare, but as I assume once you're in it, you just kind of have to just adjust on the fly.
You do. And there is no prescription. There is no recipe. This is the best stuff. I've seen experienced travelers have been out doing this in multiple continents for a decade plus, doing more trips than I have. There's always a bigger fish. And these guys will look and still be learning from someone else. Oh, I never thought of that, or that's a good way. And they'll tweak and move. And then you have the things that are your luxuries. I had a really great camping chair that just broke recently. I'm very upset. Just mourning its loss still. It's pretty fresh. But that thing took up a lot of space. It's not something that a lot of people could have with them. It is good part about having hard panniers is I got to stack it up against a wall and then use the other one as a table to make dinner.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that was nice to have that as a backup. But like there are things that you'll have that'll be luxury items that you want to take with. Some people bring a bigger tent just because they got the space, or some people, I don't know, want to bring a lot more tools that they may not even ever use, but they just cause they don't know. Yeah. So there's again, no recipe because, and then it's organic. For example, I have been through 5 batteries on this journey. I am not proud to admit it. Wow. 5. It's a long story, but I currently have jumper cables made out of an extension cord that I found at a campground in Peru. And I've been manually taking these stripped wires and holding them up to multiple batteries because there was a time that I had to start my battery every morning for about 2 or 3 weeks every morning because I could not get a battery. And so I'd be at a place and a guy's getting a cab and I'm like, hey, when your cab gets here, could I use the battery? And then I'd start it in the morning for that first start of the day because it's not going to start. Yeah. So I'll be honest, I still have a whole nother battery because I got a lithium now and I don't have a lithium charger. I've been burned so many times. You can't jumpstart a lithium. Yeah. So I'm carrying this AGM battery that just in case the lithium fails, just because it's going to happen. I've been hurt. I've been jaded. I'll take out that lithium, put it in the AGM so I can jumpstart it because I don't have a charger for the lithium now. I will, and then I'll finally toss it out. But some of it is just it's organic and changing maybe whatever's in the flavor of the week that time. But like Quentin and myself as well, I did do it every once in a while. It's good to go through everything and go, look, I've never used this thing. I'm never going to use it. And sometimes they make good gifts or parting gifts. Stuff that's just taking up space. And the best part is after I dump something that I don't use, I don't think of it again. And that's when you know. That's when you know, like, okay, like I didn't make a mistake there. Like I haven't thought, oh man, if only I had. Like you'll find it from someone else. You'll adapt. There's just you can't bring it all. The space is really the biggest, one of the biggest resources on a journey like this. And so I know I pack more than most people do. I feel like.
Right. So before we wrap up. Same thing I asked Quentin. And for him, and I know neither one of you guys finances, but he had mentioned he was saving for 2 years. So you had 7 years, but you also had a college debt. So like, how's it been financing yourself? And you'd mentioned, you do odd jobs and you help people out when people help you out as much as possible. So, besides, bike and health and all that, money, how has that been for you? Did you have to stay in a place longer because you just needed to make money, or you just really good, you've been pretty good at managing and so, you're still okay?
Yeah, I think the running dogma is it's not how you save, it's how you spend. But that's not everything. Like I've spent a lot of money on parts, and then there's also the shipping between continents. I did save for 7 years. That gives me more flexibility and more time. I'm not as restricted, and that came at a cost. I was miserable in these jobs
for 7 years.
Those 7 years. Yeah, I saw this on the horizon. I went, just keep going. So there was a lot of.
You're thanking the younger you.
Yeah, I really am because yeah, I did what I didn't want to do so that I could do what I wanted to do,
Right.
and I just kept it going.
Nice.
So yeah, there is an advantage there. I'd say that, and there's also right now I am making side funds on Two Wheels One Compass on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I mostly keep it Instagram and Facebook. They're little 90-second reels that people can, they keep it short. They stick to an educational topic. Oh, this type of food, this battle, this war, this
Yeah.
waterfall.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a Patreon where people are donating any amount they want, and
Yeah.
that has been helpful in slowing the savings going
Right.
down. I
Right.
would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd say on the whole, everything that I've done, we're talking all flights, all shipping, illnesses, accidents, routine maintenance, and then food, lodging, and fun. And I don't drink very often, and I don't party that often because it is a very unnecessary expense that can get away from you if you're not careful. I really keep it to certain days. I think in all, I'm spending somewhere around $40 to $45 a day,
Okay. Okay.
and I've had people say more and less. It seems to be kind of a sweet spot from what I've heard. But I think that because of the saving nest egg that I have, uh, it's also kept the speed in which I go down. So then I can
Right.
afford to be in a place for a little while, and I have a budget. Okay, if I keep it under $25 a day,
Right.
it's a
Right. Right.
good day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah, then you don't go out for a coffee. Make the coffee. Don't go out to eat. Make the food. If you negotiate, I'm staying in this hostel here for a week, and because of that, I'd said, hey, what about this rate? Because I'm staying for a little while. They're
Yeah.
more than happy to do that. Um,
Wow.
Not going crazy on the gasoline. I keep it at 90 kilometers an hour, around 50, 55 miles an hour
Yeah.
max. It saves my chain, it saves my tires, it saves my oil, it saves my
Yeah.
gas. I go in that cruising speed.
Right.
It doesn't
Right.
matter if cars are flying by. I just make time that day and go, okay, this is how far I'm going. 90 kilometers an hour is about how long it'll take me to get here or there. If you plan around that, you can really save on those routine costs as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
also that's I guess how you spend, not how you save
Right.
as
Right.
well.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's that's a lot of discipline, right? Because I mean, I gotta assume, you have a bad day and you pull up somewhere
Oh,
and there's a, it's like I just want to go forget about my day. But you really got to be
those
very present and mindful, but also, you realize that you know a lot of people around you are kind of going through similar things. So you're not as alone as, if I'm broken down on a highway somewhere here and I'm waiting for a tow truck, right? Like I feel alone, but like, in other countries and in countries that are not as, I don't want to say privileged because, doesn't have the same resources or access to the same timeline
right.
that we have in the US. You can lose sight of that.
You do, yeah. It's there's some pressure too. Like you want to go out with the guys that are all see for you. I've been invited into these rallies and met biker clubs that want to take me out to this place or that. So there's definitely the discipline sometimes really does go out the window. I remember when I went to Mexico, I said I'm not going to ride at night. I'm not going to go into strangers' homes, and I'm not going. I broke all those rules like the first week, and I was on the news. They like put me on local news channels because I'm the only Spanish speaking white guy in Sinaloa at this motorcycle rally. All sorts of stuff like just because you
Yeah.
kind of you break the rules sometimes, and there could be some real dividends. Also, there's
Oh
times
yeah.
that you're not going to be disciplined. I do if I'm having a really crappy day. If something is, I will buy that big tub of ice cream, or I will go ride that bike an extra a little faster. It's fine. It's a part of life. You can't keep the discipline all the time, but as long as I'm keeping it here, that okay, this is
Right,
a
right.
cheat day or something, then that's cool. Like as long as I know what it is, because yeah, the discipline is it's got to be there too. Because I don't think I would have made it this far, this
Right.
long, if I partied more or didn't stick to a lot of those rules. That I made for myself because I think that this is worth it. Being out here and keeping it going is better. than going back, empty-handed. So I could get more out of this. I
Right.
could squeeze a little more
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I
yeah.
keep stick to it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool what you're doing, and like I said, for me, I remember being 27 and realizing like it's either now or never to chase whatever dreams I had. And and I did that, and I started a band late in life and recorded an album, recorded an EP, tour,
Yeah.
did over 155 dates and stuff like that. And that was the thing that just made me realize I can do anything in life, because you only need to just get over that hump once, and you can apply it to anything, right?
Yeah.
And so it took you 7 years, and for some people, that's a long time. For some people, like they think it's a long time, because it really isn't. But they think it is, and it's easy to get deterred and stuff like that. But now, you must feel like I can do anything I want.
It's yeah that it is quite free to be able to now change. It's a privilege that I know that a lot of people may not be able to afford with commitments that they have in their life. They may have a family, they may have a house, and those things. It really does have to be prioritized. It would be difficult to do it all. I've met people that have been on the road here that did wait until their 60s before doing journeys like this. I ran into this man from I think he's from Colorado originally, but he's been on the road on retirements, doing, getting through on retirement and Social Security to pay his way through, because he did his time and he worked, and now he's out. He's in good health and he still rides, and he's thinking he's going to go through the stands through Central Asia next.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
and he's in his, I would say, I think he was like 64 to
Yeah, 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 yeah.
66. He's up there, and in terms of doing something like that,
Yeah.
and not everybody gets it that far. So while it could be that it's now or never, is what a lot of people say, I've seen a lot of people that have still done it after never.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and that's the hope, right? That is the hope that
Yeah,
people.
it's not guaranteed. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it could
yeah.
be never.
Whenever you decide to do your thing, you do it, and not and don't, because I think, to me, that's one of the worst things, is to have aspirations and dreams, and for whatever reason you talk yourself out of it, and
Yeah,
and because you know I don't know. I don't want to sit here and I try not to put myself in other people's head, and so I don't know the reasons why they don't do things and things like that. But I've found that it's kind of like, as long as you're doing it, that's all that matter. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter how many people are in the audience. It doesn't matter how many products you're selling. It doesn't matter how many people have read your books or your poems or whatever. It's the fact that you're doing it.
yeah,
And that's the biggest joy. And I was fortunate enough to see it early on, and it seems like you've been fortunate enough as well to see it real early, because a lot of folks don't get that. And I mean, I think it's the best way to live, but
yeah.
I could
Keep
be wrong.
showing up.
Yeah,
Keep showing up, even if
yeah,
there's not folks there cheering for you. Sometimes, honestly, the doing the YouTube videos that I did in the beginning, I would work my butt off for hours to put a video out there that would get like 86 views. But I found that the hunger's good,
hmm,
but also like the video editing, I like doing it. I didn't find it like a job. I found it as a creative outlet. And
right,
when it was oriented that way, when I would approach things like it's kind of a fun thing I do on the side, it ended up opening a little further without me realizing, okay, this is the ads are out there. There's people watching now. I'm starting to get a couple thousand more followers. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but as long as that wasn't the validation, it was the fact that I'd done this and
yeah.
you got over that hump, like you said. I found the video editing for a lot of people is like a job, and they would drag their feet to do it. But I actually enjoy it, and if I didn't, then I would have quit. But
Right,
I
right,
like doing it the
right.
way that I do. Yeah.
Nice, nice, man. That's awesome, man. Well, I don't want to hold you too much longer, man. Tell people how they can find you, and hopefully, we will have you back on to follow up and see where you are in like 3 months, 3 months or 6 months.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll definitely be hanging out for a while. In Chile, writing a book is the big goal, next big thing that I'm
Yeah,
doing now that my
yeah,
biggest has been conquered. But you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, or Patreon at this name right here, Two Wheels, One Compass. I can also give there's a link tree if you do show notes that I could put into the chat.
Yeah, definitely send me a link. We'll definitely get all that in.
Yeah, it'll have all those
Yep.
that you can find on there. I'm much more active on Facebook and Instagram Reels. The YouTube, I still put out every once in a while, and I still have a ton in a bank somewhere that will be released slowly to stretch out the content that I have, because there are low points where things aren't happening all the time, but
Right.
I'd like to
Yep.
keep people with updated things. So, but yeah, and you can find it. And yeah, it's travel, armchair travel infotainment, I call it. There's folks that want to see the world and maybe not get out into it. And there's a lot of history in there that can talk about the identity of the places, of the people and places that I visit. People find it pretty interesting. And very soon, Antarctica is going to be on there. And there's a lot of wild things about Antarctica, whether it's how it was found, random volcanic explosion and people saved from an island that was going down, the hole in the ozone layer. What's that about? Like all sorts of stuff that I want to learn and teach about with my travels there. Will be coming out as well too. So and it's a place that very few people get to go.
Yes. Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you coming on, Jimbo Tarpey, Two Wheels, One Compass. Thank you, man.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Rexy. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.